Robin and I started electrical contracting business in Haliburton, and it was really successful for 8 years. And during that time, I encountered all kinds of problems in the field where people had frozen water pipes, and there were really no really well-designed products. Everybody was jury rigging and using stuff, a lot of unsafe installations. It still goes on today. But I was in the field as an electrician, seeing this stuff, and I had read about the conductive polymer technology, and one thing led to another, and I thought, boy, if I can develop something that won't melt or overheat a plastic pipe, because that was one of the problems, that was one of the faults, and a product that had safety measures built into it, easy to install, energy efficient, I thought I'd have something really good, and that's when we sort of went to work. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to create a system that wouldn't melt or overheat a water pipe, and more by good luck than good thinking, I realized that I had developed a system that not only because of the conductive polymer technology, it wouldn't melt or overheat a pipe, but I also learned sort of the hard way. What were we having that night? Spaghetti? I had a system in a prototype, a test, and it got down to about 25 below, and the customer called me and they said the pipe was freezing. And I thought, and this was after we were heavily invested, and I thought, no, I can't do that. It's going to keep increasing heat output. And what I didn't realize was that the heat loss on the pipe was increasing greater than the heating cable could provide heat to stop it. And we were sitting down at the dinner table when the phone call came in, and I thought, oh my goodness, this failed. And I hung up the phone with the customer. I'll never forget this day. I couldn't eat the beautiful meal Robin cooked me because I was so concerned. And then it dawned on me that we can insulate the pipe, because you never thought about insulating non-metal pipes in the day. You just didn't do it, because you would definitely, if you didn't have a fire, you'd have a pipe melted. And I called the customer and I said, wrap towels around that pipe. It was in free air. It was in atmosphere. It wasn't in the ground at all. And he said, well, we just had carpet laid and we had foam carpet underlay left over. Can we put that on the pipe? And I said, yes, put it on the pipe. And then within an hour, I got the call back that everything was fine again. And that's when we realized we could insulate the pipes. And once we insulate a water pipe like that, the efficiency goes through the roof. There isn't anything on the market at the time that could even come close to the efficiency of one of our products. That's kind of how it started.
Yep, those were the early days.
I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
The first product that we developed was Retroline, which was the internal conductive polymer self-regulating heating cable set. So they were designed, the application that I saw most often were people that had pipes running to wells or into a lake, and of course where we live is on the Canadian Shield, so we're on rock. You can't dig these pipes down. They may be in the ground, but they'll be shallow in the ground. In a lot of cases, they're in the ground and they come above the ground. But rather than have to excavate or take a pipe out of the ground or put in a new system, we thought, boy, if we made a system that you could slide inside the existing pipe to keep it from freezing, that'd save everybody a lot of money and a lot of time. And that's when we created Retroline. And Retroline just installs into an existing water pipe, and that was the first product 30 years ago. It's our largest selling product to this day. Not a lot of changes have been made in the product. Some ground fault technologies, safety technologies have improved over 30 years. When they improve, we improve along with them. So those things have got better as we've progressed through 30 years. Mm-hmm. The fitting technologies are the same. Outside of that, most of the products similar, almost identical to what it was 30 years ago.
You're an entrepreneur by heart.
Yeah, I've always tried to think of things. You know, even when I was an apprentice electrician, I was doing stuff like I don't know, I just get ideas and
Lots of ideas.
yeah, yeah. I guess I say to people now, it's not always a good thing when I go home to my wife and say, I got an idea today. But
Well, this was one idea that stuck.
yeah, it comes from being at the where the problem is, being in the field, seeing the issue, and then rather than just going along with the flow, just say, boy, there's got to be a better way to do this. One of the things I often say is, and I said it before, was, you know, if a farmer's behind a horse on a plow, plowing his field long enough, he will think of a better plow. And if you look over the years in the farming industry, at the innovation and inventions that have come from the farm, it's absolutely amazing. Hundreds, if not thousands of innovations have come from there. Because people, men and women, they're in contact with the earth, they're working it, and they think of things because they're always, I guess as humans, maybe we're all mostly looking for a better way all the time. Our cars are much better today than they were 30 years ago too. So I guess it's necessary that we do that and make those improvements.
I remember the first year making them in our garage. Lauren would go out and he'd say, I've just got one more to make. I'll be back in an hour or half an hour. It'd be like 5-6 hours later, he'd show back in the house.
Yeah, she'd be making dinner. They'd be cold dinners by the time I got them. The funny thing about it is they're a little bit technical to put together. Even though, you know, it was my trade as an electrician, I would look at the splices and things, and you know, you look at it and you think, oh geez, I could do that in 10 minutes, but it's not. It's a time-consuming thing. Even today, while we have our crews and our people building the products, they all take time to build and to build correctly. Those were the days when we were building them in the garage. And those are funny stories, I think. But we have, there were other times where people then wanted their system already installed in the pipe, and we would stretch the pipe out along the road. We didn't have a building to build them in. So, you know, you can't, if you want to make a 200-foot heated water pipe, we'd have to stretch it out along the ditch or along the road and put the cables in ourselves and roll them up and ship them out. Interestingly enough, while we were doing that, we were developing the systems of how to draw the cables in. So we were learning by that. So we were actually proving our field installed systems ourselves when we were sort of building the piped products on the road.
Yeah, the pole cord.
Yeah,
I thought
that was
one.
you. Yes, yes, that's correct. Yes. So where did that creativity come from?
Just working in the field.
Yeah, but it was one of those things. I was puzzled with it, and I couldn't just to explain without getting too technical. If you draw the cable into the pipe, and when the fittings come up, the end of the cable cannot exit the pipe because there's a fitting on the end of the pipe. So if you use a fish tape or a rope or a string to draw the cable in, and you tie it onto the end of the cable, once it's all in place, the string's knotted on the end of the cable. So how do you release it? So I'm thinking all these crazy gadgets and stuff, and then Robin comes up with the idea of how to put the loop and the string on the end of the systems, which happened
being
30
used.
years ago. We're still doing it today, not only in manufacturing, but in the field installed units. Back in the day when we started, we owned our home, and our children were young, very young, like 2 and a newborn. And I remember Robin and I hugging, we'd paid off our mortgage, and we swore to each other that we would never put ourselves at risk. We would always have the roof over our children's head, and we would not go into debt. 6 months later, we were all in again, to take for all the right reasons. The company was going, things were happening. The product was getting acceptance in the field, so we had to improve and get on board, and so we did all that. Did we see it? Did we see all the product group and all of that? It was almost impossible to see that at the time.
It was just one product, and it looked like it was enough.
Yeah, but cool things happened. Like, I remember it was about the third year, and wicked cold winter, like really cold, like the snow squeaking under our feet, that cold. And we were only making internal systems, and a farmer called me, and I know nothing about farming, and he was a feedlot owner, and so he had cattle, and everybody's water pipes were freezing. So if you went to the hardware store, even to get an old crummy old heat tape, they were all out, they were sold out, everybody was sold out. So we were starting to get calls to see if we had something that would help them, and I didn't have anything, because in the barn or on a feedlot, the systems we made were not suitable. We're good to go from a lake or from a well to a building, but the branch piping and everything that's involved, we didn't have anything. And this one man called me, I'll never forget, and he said, he said the water trucks, like they had water trucks bringing portable water to people to try to keep them going. And this man told me on the phone that he had 100 head, and that if he can't get water soon, he's going to lose his livestock. And that shocked me. It was his life's work. And I immediately went to work on a system for farm and agriculture. And to this day, I don't think there's a product that'll do what it does. We've won awards with it and that, but that would have been, I don't know, probably 3 years in that we thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah,
was,
you went to the shop and you made a system that you thought would work for him.
yeah.
And you took it to him and helped
We
him put it on.
actually installed it with him. And so again, it's being hands-on. We learn that way, right? The call comes into us.
So that was product number 3.
3? Yeah, 3. Yeah, Paladin. Yeah, number 3. So, and that's the way it's grown. So, did we envision it? No, but you knew, and we know now after 30 years, we know now that there's still so much more to do. If we're, Arctic Vent, how long ago was that? 15 years ago? We're at a trade show, like we're not in the Arctic. We don't live in the Arctic. We know about the Arctic, but, a man from the Arctic comes to me at the trade show and tells me that, the plumbing vents in their roofs freeze up solid and all the sewer gas goes in the homes, and it's a huge problem up there. And he said, is there anything that you have to address it? And we didn't have anything. It had special requirements or things that, you can't run an extension cord up on somebody's roof to freeze protect a vent. So we created one, and we designed it from scratch. And to this day, it's the only certified freeze protected plumbing vent anywhere that we know of, at least in North America. So it's almost like sometimes do we envision it? No, but as we go along day to day, it's almost like it comes to us. And if we want to take the challenge on and develop a product, that's up to us. And we enjoy it, solving problems. It's kind of fun, It is. And you get even to this day, like our staff, our people, like the greatest part of the work day to me is going home, after work, and you helped people all day. You made $1, a fair $1, but you help people and you solved a problem. And if you can go home feeling like that, like we do every day, that's a pretty good day, you know?
I think Heatline is successful just because of our customer service. We take care, you know, with the products, our customers. We just enjoy it. What do you think?
Yeah, we're honest and we care about our customers. We've always been that way. I think our parents instilled that in us. And I believe that's the only way to be successful in business. I know that a lot of people may think that, you know, success may come from some corrupt place. I don't believe that. You know, like the last comments that you go home feeling good. You can't go home feeling good unless you've been honest with people. And it's just caring about the customer. We're not in it to make money first. We're in it to build a great product or service. And if I was to say to any young entrepreneur today that's going into business, if I had the opportunity, I would say if you're going into business to provide a great service or product first, the financial gain will come. If you go into business to make money, you're going into business for all the wrong reasons. Because that's not the thing that makes us happy. The thing that makes us happy is helping other people and building great stuff to make life better.
Yeah.
That's the way
Pretty
we've
much all
always...
Heatline products make someone's life better.
Yeah, even in the electrical business, we always took pride in it to do the best work we could do. And you know, we just sort of carry that with us. That's the way we feel, you know. Incredible service. Dedication to knowing and understanding what their concern or problem is. We'll fire back questions to make sure that we fully understand what the application is, each application, and make sure that we go through it and get it well defined, because we understand where the customer, they might not think about what's at the other end of their pipe, or you know, they might forget that the lake's going to drop. The dams are going to let the water go at the end of the season in the fall. That they might forget that pipe's got to be a little bit longer than they thought because they didn't think about the water level. Those kind of things. Identifying their application to the point that we may have 2 or 3 products that could solve their problem, but which one is the most ideal and which one's the most ideal but has the lowest capital cost and do the job in an excellent way. You know, Retroline, for example, it may carry one of the highest capital costs, but in its proper application, it will save you money. We may be able to not have to use a Retroline. We can get away in some applications with an external Paladin system, which doesn't have to go through all of the pressurized potable water certifications. It's not designed to go in the water, and it can sometimes be less than half the price. And unless we go through the application with the customer, we may not identify that. But if we take our time, we'll make sure every time that we get them the right product at the right price. That's the idea. Yeah, so how do we see Heatline's future going ahead? So the next decade, more huge growth. Our growth path it's big. Like we grow at, you know, some accountants will tell us that we're growing at a rate that's almost not really achievable. And but we manage it, and it's we've got great people involved in all of that. Succession planning with our children, we've planned it, and they have come in voluntarily. We did not bring our family in. They learned about our products as they grew up, and we had hoped that they would come in and take the business over with passion and understanding, and they did. and I now see their talents going to work where I fail to understand some of the newest technology in that I wasn't born and raised with a computer. I used to dial my phone when I was young. And they bring that new dynamic to the business. Heatline's dynamic, it's a dynamic company. And now the younger generation, the generation coming through, my children are coming through at the age, they're in the business now, they're the age I was when I founded it. And they bring that new dynamic through. And for Robin and I to be able to watch that and watch them make it grow is just amazing to us. And to be a part of that is a dream.
Yeah, I think the whole family has harmony. It's good.
As crazy as this seems, it's grown by word of mouth. You know, our kids they're doing it with the internet and all of that. That's marketing. But we now, like, if you know, when I started my electrical company, I'm in a small town, and if you did good work, people would hear and you'd keep getting more work. And Heatline is a word of mouth company. The thing is, we're not in a small town, but we've got people in, you know, Iowa or Montana telling people in Colorado about the product, or somebody in Ontario telling somebody in Maine about the product and how well it works. And those things just keep carrying it and expanding it. You know, and you know, products are as far north as Eureka and as far south as Antarctica, protecting exploration camps. How'd that happen? You know, it's you know, it's
word of mouth.
yeah, you know, so it's I think it's fair to say that it's gone beyond our expectations. I couldn't think 30 years ago that we'd have product in Antarctica. That just wasn't really in the picture at the time. It really wasn't, but now we can see it. It's going to go everywhere, so continually. So it's got a great future. This is an amazing little company. It's going to go a long way.
I agree.